everyone, welcome back. And I know I'm late, but Happy New Year's. I know that everyone says this in these videos, but I really cannot believe that 2023 is over. And that also means that I think I've been posting videos on this channel for like 8 or 9 months, which is crazy. Side note, I'm filming in a different spot today. As you can probably tell, I'm in my living room and I don't normally film here for quite a few reasons. We don't have the cutest apartment in general, but our living room is just full of like sad gray furniture. It's kind of like how people make fun of the sad beige people. I feel like we are sad gray people, at least in the living room. But then it also clashes against our horrible yellow walls, so it's just not cute out here. But if you've ever watched my videos and wondered why the lighting is absolutely atrocious, it is because my window in my room backs up to a brick wall. So there's not much sunlight. So here I am sitting in front of the one set of windows in our living room, which if I turn all the lights off in here, it would still be completely dark. We have the worst lighting in our apartment, but I'm trying to make it work. So hopefully the lighting is better than my regular videos, but who knows, it could be worse. But we're just gonna roll with it. And in case you haven't noticed, we do still have our Christmas tree up. I'm just not ready to give up Christmas yet. Anyways, back to what this video is really about. I love tier ranking videos and I have always wanted to make one, so I'm so excited to tier rank all of the books that I read in 2023. I finished 71 books and DNF'd 4, which I think is crazy looking back because I started reading in 2022 and I set myself a goal to just read 1 book a month. I just fell in love with reading, and I would say that 2023 is the first year that I went into it starting as an avid reader. I have a couple more stats that I pulled from Goodreads for 2023. It says I read 26,434 pages, and out of the 75 total that I read between DNFs and finished books, I had 21 fantasy/dystopian, 3 sci-fi, 25 mystery thriller/horror, 13 romance, 12 general fiction, and 1 memoir, which I put those together, so some of them might not really fit into those categories, but whatever. Moving on to what you're really here for, which is the tier ranking. Okay, I have 7 categories, and it honestly was a little harder to come up with these than I thought it would have been. Starting at the top, we have Bury Me with This Book. This is self-explanatory. These are my all-time favorites, 5-star, 6-star reads. I love these with my whole heart. Just because a book is in this category doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best written book or that I think everyone will love it or should read it. It just means that for whatever reason, I loved it so much. Next we have You Were Almost Amazing, which I'm gonna say is for books that are pretty much like 4 stars. They were really, really good, but they weren't quite at that 5-star level. I feel like a lot of books are gonna fit in this category. Next is Good But Nothing Special. This is books that are pretty much 3 stars. I enjoyed them, but like I said, they're pretty much average, not a whole lot to say about them. I don't remember why I liked this. I honestly just put that in there for books that I don't remember much of the plot or what I thought about it, but I know I enjoyed it, at least like a 3-star or 2.5 star. I don't know how many are gonna fit into that category, but it's there just to have. I wish I liked this more. I made this category for 1 book in particular, and we will get to that. But I'm interested to see if I have more books that I can put in here. I would say this is for books that I was really excited for, but I was disappointed by, and I wish that I enjoyed. I was so annoyed when I was making this because for some reason, this one and then the bottom one would not center the words. All the other tiers have the words centered like they're supposed to be, and then those ones, it kept pushing them to the left. So that's why I have a little period here so that I could put spaces to put it centered because I really didn't like it. Somewhat Painful is for a book that I really didn't enjoy. I found it painful to get through. I was really just pushing through it, but I wasn't really enjoying it. But it's not for books that I absolutely hated. Those books are reserved for I want my time back. Books that fit into here are gonna be ones that I really did not like. I was just trying to get through. There wasn't a whole lot that I found redeeming about them. Anything I DNF'd would go into this category, and then books that I maybe wish I DNF'd. As the tier says, I wish I could get my time back from reading this because it really was not worth it. I'm kind of thinking about switching I Wish I Liked This More and Somewhat Painful, because at least the 1 book that I created, I Wish I Liked This More, that was more than Somewhat Painful. Yeah, I think that's better. It took me forever, but I put all of the books in order of when I read them. So let's get started with my first one, which was Tender is the Flesh. What a weird book to start 2023 with. I'm not gonna go into the details or synopsis of any of these books because we would just be here for forever. But for some of these, the general idea might be necessary to explain myself. For instance, this is a dystopian horror book where cannibalism is legal. Actually, it's not just legal, it's pretty much necessary in order to live. You gotta do it. So it's obviously a very disturbing book and not the most fun to read, but at the same time, it was really good. I think I'm gonna put it in You Were Almost Amazing because this certainly is not a 5-star. It's not my favorite. It's not a book I'm gonna go recommend that people read, but it was really gripping and interesting. And while I hated reading about it, I really enjoyed it. And it definitely feels much better than Good But Nothing Special. Next is The Light of All That Falls by James Islington. This is for sure bury me with this book. Top tier, love this. I know I've mentioned this before, but it's the third book in the Lacanius trilogy, which is an epic high fantasy, and this was just perfection. My boyfriend got me to read these books, and I will be eternally grateful for that. I loved these so much. They are really thick books that each took me like a month to get through, but they were so worth it, and this last book just wrapped everything up in the most perfect way. I was stunned and just in love. It was an immediate 5-star. Then we have I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy, which is a memoir, so I really don't know how I want to rate it because I don't rate memoirs. I know a lot of people are the same way. It feels wrong to be rating somebody's life experiences. So I feel bad putting this anywhere other than towards the top, but I did really enjoy it, and it was nice to hear from someone that I grew up watching, so it was somebody I actually connected with. I think I'll put it in You Were Almost Amazing. 100 Other Girls, this is my first DNF of the year, maybe my first DNF ever, really. So this goes straight into I Want My Time Back. This book was painful. I only got, I think, 80 pages in before I just decided I could not go any further. At the beginning of the year, I was seeing this book all over my TikTok, and I know 100% that almost every single video was from the author themselves. Like, I knew seeing it that they were all sponsored posts, but she still did a really good job of making me want to pick up the book. But I really wish that I never did, and a lot of people I think agree with me. The reviews for this are not good. I went into it thinking it was just going to be The Devil Wears Prada, but more of an updated version. And I'm sure that plot-wise, that's pretty much where it goes. But the writing was just really cringy and just, I don't really know how to describe it other than saying it was like reading a book that was written by TikTok. It's like if you took someone whose entire vocabulary and life experiences come from stuff that they see on TikTok. That was kind of how this was written. It was just really cringy and very much like online internet lingo, that kind of thing, and I couldn't do it. The Kind Worth Killing, which is a mystery thriller. I think this is probably gonna go in good but nothing special. Although I did really like this one, so I guess it could go, no, I'm gonna keep it. No, I changed my mind, it's going up here. I just think that this had a really unique and fun plot. It's not like any other mystery thriller that I've seen, and they all can get super repetitive. And the author definitely kept me on my toes. There were a lot of things that I didn't expect coming, so I really enjoyed this. Honestly, this is making me want to pick up the second book that came out recently. I don't know why it hasn't been on my radar. Legends and Lattes, this is for sure straight to the top. Bury me with this book. See, I know that a lot of people don't like this, and I understand why, but I absolutely loved it. This was one of my favorite books of the entire year. It just amazing. It's a cozy fantasy that just made me smile and made me happier than probably any other book that I've read this year. The Do-Over by Lynn Painter. This one is kind of tricky. This is definitely sitting somewhere in our middle 3 sections. Well, okay, it's definitely not somewhat painful. I think I'll put it in good but nothing special. This is one of the few young adult, as I was saying, I don't really read young adult romances, I just don't really connect with them, but they can be cute. And that's exactly what this was. It was fun, I read it in one day. It is the Groundhog Day trope, so it got a little bit repetitive, but it was just cutesy. The Sanatorium, this I think I'll put in I don't remember why I liked this. I enjoyed it, but while I was reading it, I kind of just wanted something more. Twisted Games, this is the second book in the Twisted series by Anna Huang, and I'm gonna go with Good But Nothing Special. This is everyone's favorite book out of the series, and out of the 2 that I've read so far, it is my favorite. I did really like it, but when I compare it to the other romances that I read this year, I just don't think that it really is at the same level. Ace of Spades, this is a young adult mystery thriller, dark academia, that was really fun and exciting. I'm gonna put it at You Were Almost Amazing. It definitely wasn't a 5-star, but it was just a really fun, fast-paced read. Severance, I think I'm gonna put that in the same tier. This is a short, easy read, and it was honestly a bit strange to be reading in 2023 because it's in a world where a pandemic has just wiped out most of the population. I really enjoyed her writing and the story. I remember finishing it and thinking it was really great, but it's definitely not creeping on 5-star territory. Next, we have the first 3 books in the Percy Jackson series, and I'm probably gonna upset some people, but I think I'm gonna put the first and third in Good But Nothing Special, and then the second one and You Were Almost Amazing. These were definitely fun. I enjoyed them. They got a little bit repetitive just reading all 3 of them back to back. It kind of felt like the same plot over and over again, but I remember really loving the second one. Cabin at the End of the World, straight to the bottom. I hated this book so much. My friend and I picked this up to read together, and she actually gave it 5 stars, so you know, take my opinion with a grain of salt. This is a really short, like 250-page horror book. They actually turned it into a movie, and I would just recommend you watch the movie instead of the book. first 50 pages were crazy. They had me, and I just had to know what happened at the end. But then the next 200 pages just felt so boring and repetitive. It was like nothing was actually happening. And I only kept reading to see what happened at the end, and after finishing it, it was not worth it. Mr. Wrong Number by Lynn Painter. This one is definitely between the top 2 tiers. I think I'm gonna put it in Bury Me With This Book, which is probably controversial because a lot of people don't love this book, but I don't care. I loved it. The banter between the 2 characters just had me laughing and smiling. I read this in like 2 days. It's by Lynn Painter, so same author as The Do-Over, and I enjoyed this one so much more. This one is new adult, so they're early 20s, and I just really liked it. Arsenic and Adobo, this is gonna go into good but nothing special. This is just a solid 3-star. It's not something that I would ever recommend to somebody, but if you've had it on your radar, I would say to give it a chance. I think it's worth a read. It's just not anything special. The Love Wager, I feel like I gotta put it by Mr. Wrong Number. These 2 are interconnected standalones, so we get some of the same characters from Mr. Wrong Number in this one, and again, I just really loved this. I love Lynn Painter's young adult writing. No, her new adult writing. I just think she does a really good job at creating banter between the 2 characters, and they're just fun reads that get me to like actually react out loud, like laughing and smiling. Next we have the Caraval series. This is what started my obsession with Stephanie Garber, who, if you didn't know, is my favorite author. I know a lot of people do not like the Caraval series and they say to just skip it and go straight into Once Upon a Broken Heart, but I disagree. I say to at least give it a chance. If you don't like it, then you don't have to read it. Just go on to Once Upon a Broken Heart, but definitely give it a chance because you might love it. Stephanie Garber's writing is just so beautiful and magical. It's all very fairy tale-esque. I really like her characters, and I love the worlds that she writes. I think that they are so fun. I definitely liked Once Upon a Broken Heart more than the Caraval series, but I think that at least one of these still belongs in the top tier. I think I will put Legendary up there. I honestly have a horrible memory, and I can't remember, like, if I read a series, which one was my favorite, unless it really stood out as being amazing. But I think that I liked the second one best because I was already into the world, I knew the characters and loved them, so I'm gonna say that that one was my favorite. Then I read Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Again, this either goes in Bury Me With This or You Were Almost Amazing. I think I have to put it in the top, which is so unexpected. This is just a general fiction about a family of famous surfers, and I did not expect to love this as much as I did. It takes place leading up to this event where you know that all of the family is going to be together and each one of them has these huge secrets that they've been hiding. So just the tension and waiting for that moment that all of their secrets came out was amazing. I ate this book up. Then we have Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. You know where these are going. At least the second one, The Ballad of Never After, for sure is going into Bury Me With This book. The second book is everybody's favorite, and for a reason. This one is so amazing. I highly recommend this series. Just like Caraval, her writing is beautiful. I loved all of the characters. I love Jax, and Ballad was just so good. I want more books from Stephanie Garber that do this to my heart. Once Upon a Broken Heart was fantastic, but she's just not at that level. So it definitely belongs in You Were Almost Amazing. Homicide and Hollow Hollow. This goes right next to the first book, Arsenic and Adobo. Again, good, but nothing special. Secretly Yours by Tessa Bailey. This is for sure one of my least favorite books of the entire year. It is going in I Want My Time Back. I actually read this and the next book in a video where I was reading my lowest and highest rated books on Goodreads, and that video never made it to the internet because it was so incredibly negative. This was the lowest rated book on my physical TBR, so I obviously went into it with not high hopes, but no matter how much I prepared myself to dislike it, I was still blown away by how much I hated it. The female main character in this book was fine. I had nothing wrong with her. My issue was the man. This was dual POV, so you got his thoughts, and I really wish that we didn't. I found what he thought about her to be disgusting. And personality-wise, he was just horrible. He was just a stick in the mud, and then he was gross, so I really did not enjoy this book. Next is Powerless, which was the highest rated book on my physical TBR at the time, and I don't know what to say about this book. By now, I'm sure that everybody has heard of this book because it is loved by everyone. But before it came out, the author Lauren Roberts was on TikTok, and she was kind of documenting the whole process of publishing her first book as like an 18-year-old. And I was so excited for her. I had the release date on my phone. I ordered this the day that it came out. At the time, it was certainly the most excited that I've ever been for a book, and I really did not like it at all. Like I said, I bought this on release date, and originally this was independently published, and it has since been picked up by a publisher. The cover and everything's slightly different. I'm assuming that they have re-edited it, so the book that most people have read might be different than the one that I read. But this was honestly really painful for me to read. It was 500 something pages, and it took forever. I was torturing myself, getting myself to read this book. And I was so disappointed because I was excited to support this author and I was really excited for it. I thought that the premise sounded good, but it just wasn't for me. I found it to be way too much of a copy and paste of The Hunger Games. It was just every single fantasy romance trope thrown into one book. And there were literally so many grammatical errors that threw me off so much. It took me out of reading the book. Those I'm hoping have at least been corrected since it's been traditionally published. And I'm not a scholar. I am not an English major. I probably miss a lot of grammatical mistakes in books, but this one, it was just painful to get through. I feel really awful talking badly about this book because it's her debut. She wrote it when she was like 18, and I really wanted to support a new young author and love it, but unfortunately it just wasn't for me. But I'm definitely in the minority there. So many people absolutely love this book. It is like a 6-star read for so many people, like Sarah Caroli and Rachel Catherine. So I would still recommend that you give it a shot. It just wasn't for me. If you haven't guessed, this is the book that I created the I wish I liked this more tier for. I really went into this with the highest of hopes, and I wish that I had a positive experience with it, but you know, you win some and you lose some. Moving on to my upstairs neighbor's dog is howling. I've never heard it do that. Anyways, the last thing he told me. This is gonna go in Good But Nothing Special. This was a mystery. Definitely not a thriller. I would just call this a mystery. It's a book that a lot of people don't love, but me and my friends all read it around the same time and we actually all really enjoyed it. People We Meet on Vacation. This is the only book that I've read by Emily Henry so far, and I enjoyed it, but I didn't think that there was anything special about it. I'm kind of between putting it in Good But Nothing Special, and I don't remember why I liked this. I think I'll put it here because I know that I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun, but I don't remember anything about the plot or any reason as to why I liked it. The Last Year of the War. I think this will be Good But Nothing Special. This was a solid 3.5 star. This is the only historical fiction I think that I've read, and it was slow at times, but it was still a really interesting story and I enjoyed it. What Lies in the Woods by Kate Alice Marshall. I'm gonna put that in the same category. This is a mystery thriller that was really solid, but nothing stand out about it. For me, I feel like mystery thrillers are always either just average or great, but they're never like amazing. So that is one of the ones that was good, but just like middle of the road. Winter in Paradise by Ellen Hilderbrand. This is the first book in a trilogy. I read all 3 of them this year. I think all of them are going to go in Good But Nothing Special. I did really enjoy reading these. They were just a fun, different kind of read. It's about this woman whose husband dies in a helicopter crash, and then she finds out that he had this whole secret double life with a wife in St. John, maybe? So it's kind of more like family drama, general fiction, and they were fun, but definitely nothing special. Divergent. I think I'm gonna put this in somewhat painful, which is a bit shocking. I did a video this year where I reread some of my middle school favorite books, and this is the first one I did for that, and I think I was just a little bit disappointed with this one. It was fun, but it kind of dragged on a bit. I was expecting to finish it really quick, but I just didn't, and then when I got to the end, I was really disappointed by that, and immediately once I finished it, I knew that I had no interest in reading any more of the series. The Last Mrs. Parrish. Ooh, this is definitely You Were Almost Amazing. Possibly Bury Me With This. After what I said about mystery thrillers, I feel like I can't really put this in Bury Me With This, but this is probably my favorite mystery thriller that I've read all year. I think I'll move it up to Bury Me With this book. But this was just so good. I was angry, I wanted revenge, I was sad, I was happy. It took me through every emotion and I really enjoyed it. Then I had the opposite experience with Sometimes I Lie by Alice Feeney. I'm gonna put this in somewhat painful because I think it would be a little harsh to give it the bottom tier, but I really did not enjoy this at all. I love the other books that I've read by Alice Feeney, so this definitely threw me off. This is about a woman who gets into an accident and she is in a coma, and the whole time she's in the coma while you're reading, and then she's like having flashbacks and she's trying to figure out what happened to her. I found this to be so boring, and then the parts that were supposed to be the plot twist or the exciting part, I just thought were confusing and didn't make sense. So it was a no for me. Then I read the second book in the Summer I Turned Pretty trilogy by Jenny Han. These books definitely belong in Good But Nothing Special for me. These are just like cutesy little teeny bopper books. They're really young, really silly, but they're just fun. When in Rome by Sarah Adams, immediate top tier. Please bury me with this book. I love it so much. I have the cover of this one displayed on my bookshelf. I just love it with my whole heart. This is kind of like the Lynn Painter books where I know that the writing and the plot are not the most amazing thing ever, but they just gave me that 5-star feeling and I loved them. But this one is definitely above the Lynn Painter books. Then we have Tentacles, and the cover of this is definitely strange. Don't get scared. This is another one that I read for my rereading middle school favorite books, and this is about these kids who are cryptozoologists or something, and they are searching for a giant squid. So that's what the tentacle thing is all about, and this is definitely gonna go in somewhat painful. I loved this book so much as a kid. This was probably more like elementary school than it was middle school. I was constantly rereading it. I loved it so much, so I was really excited to reread it as an adult, but this was just painful. It was obviously written for a much younger audience than Divergent and The Hunger Games, and I just could not get into it. Then we have Yellow Face, which I think I'll put in good but nothing special. And I know a lot of people really love this book, and I will say the writing and the story is really good. But it's one of those books where every single character is awful and has like no redeeming qualities about them. And I do not enjoy reading books where everyone's unlikable. I have to have at least someone to root for. Never Lie by Frida McFadden. This is gonna go in You Were Almost Amazing. Like I said, most mystery thrillers will never be top tier for me, but this one was really good. Practice Makes Perfect. This is the book that comes after When in Rome, and I think I'll put it in You Were Almost Amazing. A lot of people didn't like this anywhere near as much as When in Rome, but I thought they were pretty close. There was just something about it where I knew it wasn't quite as good as the first one, but I still really loved it. Then we have the first two books in a series for Unfortunate Events, and I'm sure you can guess these are more of the rereading my middle school favorite books. These I will put in good but nothing special because these are just pure nostalgia. These are super short. There's like 13 books in the series, and I was obsessed with this as a kid. I still think it's a really good series. I have no idea like what age range this is for, but definitely elementary school. I think that kids would enjoy this. My last book for that video was The Hunger Games, and this one is going in You Were Almost Amazing. It's The Hunger Games, so I feel like I don't really have to say much about it. If you're in your 20s or 30s, you probably read these when they first came out. They came out when I was in middle school, and we were all completely obsessed with them. I really like her writing, and I think that these are amazing books. Then The Will of the Many. This is by James Islington, the same author as The Light of All That Falls. I was really excited for this because it's his first book in a new series, and I really liked it, but I definitely didn't enjoy it as much as the Lacanius trilogy. So I'm gonna put it in You Were Almost Amazing. This is another epic high fantasy, and I've actually been seeing a lot of people talking about it online recently, so I'm glad that his books are getting a little bit more hype. I highly recommend, and the ending was crazy. I cannot wait for book 2 to come out. Then I read book 2 in the Paradise series. Like the first one, this is gonna go in good but nothing special. Then I read my first Jennifer Lynn Barnes book, The Inheritance Games, and this is for sure going to the top. This is really popular for a reason. I loved it, and I would just say the best word to describe it is fun. If you like riddles and mysteries, I highly recommend. Her writing is so fast-paced, and this has the shortest chapters I've ever seen. So I read this so quick and loved every second of it. Next is His and Hers by Alice Feeney. This is a mystery thriller, and I'm gonna put it in You Were Almost Amazing. I feel the same way I do about Never Lie. This was just a really solid, fun mystery thriller. This one I feel like got really dark at one point, and it definitely went over some heavy topics, so I would recommend that you look up trigger warnings for this one, because I remember I was not expecting the turn that it took. Next, The Hawthorne Legacy. This is going right next to the first book. I loved this one, not quite as much as the first one, but it was pretty close. Then the last one, The Final Gambit. I think I'll put this one in You Were Almost Amazing. I don't remember why, but I do know that I didn't like this one as much as the first two. Troubles in Paradise is the last book in the Ellen Hildebrand series, and it's gonna go in good but nothing special. None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. I read this for my book club, and there were very mixed opinions on this. I really loved it. I thought that she did a good job of planting little bits of information at the very beginning. There were just so many weird things happening that I had to find out the truth about. And like I said, I really liked it. So for that reason, it'll go here. The Natural series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. These are all automatic top tier. They were all 5 stars. I loved this series so much. I cannot recommend it enough. This was similar to the Inheritance Games where it was just really fast-paced, really fun. I loved all of her characters, and the storyline was great. I was just entertained and engaged the entire time. Hooked by Emily McIntyre. This was good but nothing special. It's a dark romance that is very loosely based on Peter Pan, and I enjoyed this a lot more than I thought I was going to. There was definitely a lot going on plot-wise. It was kind of crazy. It was very entertaining. I read this during a 24-hour readathon and I took no breaks. I read this book I think in one sitting and it was just really fun. Murder in the Family. I'm gonna put this in somewhat painful. This was making its round on TikTok and it sounded really interesting because it's a mixed media murder mystery. The whole book takes place during a docuseries that's being filmed about a murder that took place like 10 or 20 years ago. So it's all written in transcript style, and then there's also some mixed media elements where you get newspaper clippings, emails, texts, some timelines, and I was really excited by the mixed media element. I thought it sounded really fun, but I guess there wasn't as much mixed media as I was thinking there was going to be, and it kind of just dragged on for me. The Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels. I'm gonna put this in I wish I liked this more. This is one of my DNFs, and it's probably the only one that's not a super hard DNF, although I probably won't ever pick it up again. I like the premise of this and I thought that it was funny and cute, but I just found myself bored. It was kind of strange because while I was reading it, I was enjoying it, I was laughing, but then I would get a couple pages in and I'd put it down and want to get on my phone or do anything else but read it. So I would put it down, read another book, and then pick it up and see if I could get into it, but I just never got over that feeling of being bored while I was reading it, so I decided to officially DNF. Catching Fire, which is book 2 in the Hunger Games. I'm also gonna put this in You Were Almost Amazing. I love the plot and the idea of the games in this one, and it's for sure my favorite movie too. Truly Devious. I'm gonna put this in Somewhat Painful. I was really excited to read this in the fall. It's a young adult murder mystery, and a lot of people that I watch recommended it, so I went into it with pretty high hopes. And I didn't hate it while I was reading it, but I was a little bit bored. And then maybe I'm just missing something, but I did not like the ending. I felt like I'd been bamboozled. It felt like she was trying to do this big plot twist that was supposed to be amazing, but I just didn't care about it whatsoever. And I was like, okay, if this is the direction that this is going in, I don't know that I really want to continue reading this series. So I didn't totally hate it while I was reading it, but it wasn't very fun and I won't be continuing the series. One True Love by Stephanie Garber. This is the last book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy. A lot of people were very disappointed by this book, and I was too, but I still really enjoyed it while I was reading it. Even though it didn't necessarily go the way I wanted it to, and we didn't get enough of certain characters, I still had a really fun time reading it because I still love the writing style and the world. So I'm gonna put this in You Were Almost Amazing because there's a definite difference between the first 2 books in this one, but I still really loved it. The Secret Society of Irregular Witches. I'm gonna put this in You Were Almost Amazing. This is a really cute witchy rom-com that I wasn't expecting much from, but I really loved it. If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. This is a super popular dark academia that revolves around Shakespeare. I feel like a lot of people love or hate this book. I would say I fall in the hate category. I'm gonna put it in Somewhat Painful. I would say that I was enjoying the book at first, but then it just started to drag on, and I wasn't hating the book while I was reading it. I was just wanting to get through it. You know when you're reading a book and you don't hate it, but you just want to finish it so you can move on to the next one? That is how I felt during most of this book. Moving on to Fourth Wing, one of the most popular books of the year. I would say that I went into this skeptical because a lot of the same people that were recommending Fourth Wing were the same people who really loved Powerless, and I thought maybe our tastes for fantasy romance just aren't the same. But I was pleasantly surprised. I actually really enjoyed this. Reading it just made me happy. I will say it definitely is not the best book in terms of writing or just overall quality. I don't think anybody is arguing that it's an amazing book for those reasons. It just was really fun. For me, a 5-star book is not something that has to be like critically amazing. It's just something that gives me that 5-star feeling where I'm reading it and I'm enjoying it. I don't want to put it down. I'm just having so much fun. And that is exactly what this book did. And for that reason, I'm gonna put it in Bury Me with this book. I had to zoom out so that we could see everything, but we're getting towards the end. Next we have Mockingjay, the 3rd book in the Hunger Games, and I think I'll put this in. I don't remember why I liked this. Honestly, I don't remember much about what I thought about any books that I read back in middle school, but reading this one, it was so incredibly depressing, and I just did not remember that or expect that at all. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. This is the prequel to the Hunger Games. If you can't tell, I was rereading all of these for the movie that came out this year, and I'm gonna say I want my time back because I really didn't enjoy reading this at all. I would say the first quarter of this book I did enjoy, but then after that, I really did not like anything about it. It was so slow, it really dragged on. I only forced myself to finish it because I wanted to read the whole thing and then go see the movie, but otherwise I totally would have DNF'd. Bookshops and Bone Dust. This is the prequel to Legends and Lot lattes, and I really loved it. It gave me a lot of the same feelings as the first one, but just not as much, if that makes sense. So it was really good, it was really sweet, but it just wasn't quite as good as the first one. So it belongs in You Were Almost Amazing. The It Girl by Ruth Ware. This is a mystery thriller that I listened to on audiobook, which was fun. I'm gonna put it in good but nothing special because it was just a very average thriller. I wasn't super into it, but I didn't dislike it at the same time. Then we have the first ACOTAR book, which I actually have an entire reading vlog just for that, so I won't go too in depth into this one. But I'm gonna put it in You Were Almost Amazing. I did really enjoy it, and looking back through the footage, I had some really good reactions, so I was really into it, but I didn't think that it was anything super amazing that stood out to me. I am excited to continue the series because I've heard that it gets better. Then I read a couple of Christmas books, starting with A December to Remember, and I think I'm gonna put this in I Wish I Liked This More, which feels really harsh because it's towards the bottom, but this wasn't a bad book. It's about these three half-sisters that are in this small town. They're having to do a couple of tasks because of their father's will, and it was cute and fun, but I just kind of wanted more Christmas holiday feels from it. And I honestly feel like I could have read this at any time of year. It wasn't very Christmassy. Then we have A Merry Little Meet Cute. So I actually DNF'd this one at about 80 pages in, so it's going in I Want My Time Back. I knew that this was a spicy book, and I thought that a lot of people really liked it, but looking at Goodreads, it doesn't have the best rating. And I went book shopping on Black Friday and saw a couple Christmas books, and I didn't read anything about them. I just knew that I'd heard good things. And I really wish that I read the back of this one, because literally the first sentence explains that she has essentially an OnlyFans, and he is her biggest fan, and they end up getting cast as the leads in this Hallmarky Christmas movie. So much about this book was just really weird and made me uncomfortable, and I didn't even get to any of the spicy scenes. And I just can't get behind the trope where she has an OnlyFans and then he like really loves to watch her. If you do like that, then I'm happy for you. I know there's a lot of people who like that trope. I just can't get behind it. It just feels icky to me. Once I found that out, I just wasn't a big fan. I tried to push through, but there were a lot of moments that I just really didn't enjoy, so I DNF'd it. Okay, I must have messed up here because Road of Bones was something I read like in February or March. I don't know how it ended up there, but I don't want to end on that note because it was a DNF. So I'll just go ahead and put that in I Want My Time Back. This is a really short thriller or maybe horror book. It's about these guys who are driving on this freezing cold road in like Siberia. They're going to film a documentary or something, and I just found the first like 50 pages really boring. It was just about them being on the road, and I thought it was really boring, so I DNF'd. Back to where we were. Love Light Farms. I think I'm gonna put that in You Were Almost Amazing. This is a lot of people's favorite Christmas romance book, and I see why. It was really cute. It doesn't feel super Christmassy, but it is set on a Christmas tree farm. I really liked our two main characters, and I think that I will continue the series. My last book of 2023 was Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, which is a sci-fi thriller. The only reason that I picked this up is because of Ashlyn and Ian here on YouTube. They read this book sometime towards the end of the year and both really loved it and talked about it in a few of their videos, and they really made me want to read it. And I'm so glad that they did because this was so much fun. It starts off really quick. The first 100 pages were like so intense. The night I started it, I stayed up for like a couple hours, and it was already like 11 o'clock when I started the book. And if you know me or you've watched any of my reading vlogs, then you probably know I cannot stay awake ever when I'm reading or doing anything else. So the fact that this book just had me so engaged that I was able to stay up for like 2 hours is insane. This was so much fun, definitely one of my top thrillers of the year, and I'm stuck between putting it in Bury Me With This and You Were Almost Amazing. It didn't give me 5-star feelings, but it was amazing, and it's one of those books that I want to go recommend that everybody read. I think I'll put it in You Were Almost Amazing. Okay, that took 2 hours, but we have finished tier ranking every single book that I read in 2023. I'm happy to see that the top tiers are much heavier than the bottom ones because I do feel like I had a really good reading year. I found a couple new favorite authors, I had a few really amazing 5-star reads, and overall I had a very fun time reading most of these books. If you've been following me on my little YouTube journey, I'm very grateful. This has just been so much fun to have people to talk to about the hobby that basically took over my entire life. I love making silly little videos talking about books and talking to you guys in the comments, and I'm excited to see where 2024 takes us. I'm really excited for the books that I plan to read this year. I think it's going to be even better than 2023 was. My goal is to read 80 books in 2024, so if we're counting my DNFs, I read 75 this year. That's not too much of an increase. I would love to know what kind of videos that you want to see from me in 2024. I want to try and do more reading vlog style videos because they do take a lot longer and sometimes I start them and then end up not finishing them. But they are really fun to film and like get my reactions to things. And they just break up the sit down videos, which I feel like can get a little boring or repetitive. So please let me know if there's anything in particular that you would like to see this year. I would love to know your favorite or maybe least favorite books that you read last year. Like I said, I have been filming for forever, so I'm gonna let you go. I hope that you enjoyed watching. Thank you so much, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Bye!